Hello, everyone. It is Thursday, the 18th of July, 2024. I already did a video, so if you want to take a look at that one, it's about the pineal gland. But before I started, I was talking a little bit more about the attempted assassination of Donald J. Trump. And there's still a lot of information that it's making its way out there because of people forcing the issues to be addressed. And so I have discussed the fact that Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20 years old, that he didn't have a social media presence that would indicate that he'd be some kind of a threat, that for even hours leading up to the actual shootings, that he was deemed a suspect and or someone of interest. And then and then the threat level escalating as the minutes and things like that pass by. And anyway, I want to share some videos from Anomaly. And this was posted an hour ago. And I watched just a little bit of it. I'm like, you know what, I have to share this because there's stuff that he's going to share that I think it is important. And I don't remember if I shared this stuff on my previous videos reporting on Donald J. Trump. And so all very interesting things regarding the photographers that were used, regarding the staging area for law enforcement. Like I've done the comparisons of the slopes, the head of the Secret Service woman, like even for all the calls for her to step down, including by people like Elon Musk. He's a big public figure. And the fact that she has not stepped down, resigned, and disgraced or been fired. Again, this is all stuff that's very interesting and sketchy, right? And people are talking about this being a possible staged or planned event. And people are dismissing that, saying that it's just a conspiracy theory. When people say that an event is possibly staged or planned, we're not saying that people don't die. And I said that in my earlier video as well. So when you look at 9/11, when you look at January 6th, when you look at World War I, World War II, when you look at USS Liberty, when you look at even the failed attempt to initiate Northwoods, take a look at that. People die. Even with what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, there's been a lot of Ukrainian people needlessly dying, unfortunately, because of a proxy war that's being pushed by lobbyists and propagandists that are part of the military pharmaceutical industrial complex, the higher ups, right? And so just more interesting stuff to address. There's good videos out now that I want to share, especially from Anomaly. Like this is a good one, and I'll reiterate with a lot of things being sketchy that even he's addressing.
In a photo, I would assume, what are the chances that a photographer catches the bullet in a photo? I would assume this is quite the miracle. It was captured by Doug Mills, who has decades of experience photographing presidents, including this one of George Bush getting the news about 9/11 whispered in his ear in front of the class, that iconic photo. Doug Mills took that for Associated Press in the 2000s and was Johnny on the spot for the Trump bullet. Crazy. Let's get into the video. As more time passes and more bombshell evidence rolls in, we can get a clearer picture to what went wrong and how truly fishy and sketchy it was. Here's 5 new pieces of information that's come out in the last 48 hours to make this all the more suspicious. According to the Secret Service director, the sloped roof had safety factor considerations.
Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
She really said that, or hinted that the roof was potentially too sloped for Secret Service agents? That's insane. There's so much you could say about this, like more sloped roofs that they were sitting on, but you get the point. Sketchy would be an understatement. Incompetence is the best case scenario. With pressure from Elon Musk and millions of others for her to step down, it's insane that she even thinks this is remotely acceptable. Let me know what you think. Within the last 24 hours, Fox News reported that the suspect had been identified a threat up to 10 minutes before Trump even took the stage.
On what the Secret Service knew about the shooter minutes before Donald Trump took the stage.
About 10 minutes before former President Trump went onto the stage, they had gone from looking at this guy as suspicious to now looking at him as a threat. That is coming from this briefing that the senators were in.
Apparently, security caught him with a rangefinder 3 hours prior, in which they deemed suspicious. ABC reported that the building where the gunman was found was a law enforcement staging area. And the list of headlines just goes on and on. We'll keep it there for number 2. For the third one, this local police guy told the news that the shooter actually saw one of their officers before shooting Trump and turned his gun and pointed it at the officer.
Did in fact see an individual on the roof with a weapon.
He saw the shooter.
He did.
Your officers are on patrol. They hear that there is a suspicious person on the rooftop. What did your officers do?
So our officers in the area started to converge on the building. My understanding is they did a full perimeter walk of the building. Weren't able to see up on the roof. Two of the officers went to what appeared to be the lowest point from ground to roof. One of the officers actually boosted the second officer up high enough for him to grab hold of the roof. When he was able to pull his head up over the roof, he did in fact see an individual on the roof with a weapon.
He saw the shooter.
He did.
And what did the shooter do?
Turned towards him, had the barrel of his weapon pointed at the officer.
At that point, the officer's hanging on to
Yes.
the side of the roof,
Yes.
unable to pull a gun out,
Unable to
defend himself.
So even if he was getting assistance, and yeah, like I was even told in my previous video that I look a little not stressed out. It was indirectly said, but I have not been getting a lot of sleep. I'm getting a lot of clips and footage and things that are getting sent to me all hours of the day and night regarding not only the attempted Donald Trump assassination, because all of these clips I've been shared, or they've been shared to me, and it's a matter of like getting them to be compiled in a succinct, logical fashion. And Anomaly does a great job of that. And but I'm also getting stuff on COVID. There's new information getting released, and then even with people from Pfizer when they were getting sued, asking the government to assist in dropping these court cases because they were saying that they didn't commit fraud, that they were just delivering the fraud that the government ordered, and this is on the record, people saying things like that, and so there's just a lot of information. Also, people already probably know this, but Biden, just announced, it was breaking news, that he has COVID. And so there has been talks that if he ever had some kind of a medical or health issue, that would be the only reason, or one of the only reasons why he would consider stepping out of the race. And so that just got announced in the last 24 hours, maybe less. And so is this a precursor to him making some kind of an excuse to exit because of health related issues like that? I don't know. We are getting close to the 21st of July. And when I made a prediction, God, like a long time ago, that this would be around the time where he would possibly step down. Kamala Harris would possibly be the put in his place for a brief period of time until they would find a better representation, or a better representative is what I mean to say, for the Democratic Party, because they ain't it. Neither of them are it. And so when I talk about the Trump assassination attempt, it's not because I'm supporting him as president. And so that's not what I'm saying. But this is something that absolutely needs to be looked at with a fine-tooth comb to see exactly the level of involvement there was, and with who. And was he possibly part of this? Was he possibly part of even the staged and possibly planned court proceedings that have also gotten him a lot of publicity and a lot of support? And so is this a propaganda campaign to make it where there's a resounding victory for Trump, and then a possible World War III event or staged and planned alien invasion? Anyways, that's another conspiracy theory. I'll leave that. Let's get back to this.
Unable to reach his radio.
Any of that. Yeah. Strictly defensive movement for him to lower his head, duck, lost his own grip, right? Fell approximately 8 feet
And
to the ground.
so with law enforcement, if they're going to be clearing obstacles, or if they're going to be doing any form of clearance drill or attempting to target an enemy location, the way they were doing that as well, it makes no sense to me that you'd go into an area where there's a known shooter with a firearm or a possible one, and you're going to scale a roof and not have any formal way to like protect yourself as you're clearing the roof. There's a lot of people again that are questioning those tactics and drills as well. And so why would you even bother to go up unless you were going to again try to mitigate or prevent something from happening? And just a series of events that again are just so questionable, how you would even, or why you would even do that if you were not prepared
It's a
already.
steep drop.
It's a good drop. Yes,
Did he get hurt?
he did.
In that moment, did they realize there's a threat right now to the former president?
They did. So both the boosting officer and the officer that fell were both on the radio, indicating that there was an individual on the roof that did in fact have a weapon.
Who did they radio?
So there was a blanket tactical channel being
Everyone
used.
heard it.
Everyone that was on that tactical channel heard it. Yes.
How much time between that radio communication and the gun being fired at the former president?
That I don't have that information.
This is crazy. Now, I'm not a law enforcement expert, but this should be a cause of concern that so much time lapsed with such a major threat, not a suspicious or maybe it's a threat. Like at this point, pointing a gun at an officer, obvious threat to the president of the United States and everybody who showed up there. Yet for some reason, Secret Service dropped the ball. Lots of questions are being asked online for obvious reasons. Now, for number 4, the New York Post reported that Jill Biden's office pushed for Kim Cheadle's job. She's the head of the Secret Service. Now, it says sources on the article, so as things are developing, who knows how authentic this is. But wouldn't that be another added interesting element to this whole bizarre scenario? And for number 5, the news is reporting that Iran had a threat on Trump's life for weeks before the assassination. So apparently this is their beefed up security where they already knew there was a threat from a foreign country, or so they say, and they still dropped the ball on a 20-year-old, what the news will describe as lone shooter, who was parading around for hours before shooting. Now, in my view, the US government and the media sources that basically work as a government arm are always trying to frame the narrative. Whatever they're already trying to do, it always seems to fall in that view. When it's Russia, 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 everything's Russia. Now that Iran is a massive threat to Israel, America, who backs Israel in both parties, and the massive Middle East war that's escalated over the last couple of years, I find it astonishing that now Iran is trying to do this to Trump. Even Joe Rogan found it suspicious.
This came out while we've been recording. Secret Service ramped up security after receiving intel of Iranian plot to assassinate Trump. No known connection to shooting. Oh, they ramped that up, and so they ignored the roof 150 yards away?
Yeah,
there's
so many things where you just go, what the?
Without speculating too much, let's just put it this way. If that were true, that there were threats on Trump's life already, why was the Secret Service and security so weak? It's crazy. Something's not adding up. What do you think's going on? Before I end this video, I want to just show some bonus articles and storylines that I found interesting enough to add. A report came out saying that Joe Biden would consider dropping out of the presidential race if a doctor told him he had a medical condition that might interfere with his ability to run and govern. And within a couple hours of that headline dropping, the media said that Biden tested positive for COVID, canceling speech in Las Vegas. Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, and a bunch of very prominent Democrats are pushing for Joe Biden to drop out as he seemingly can't beat Trump. This seemed obvious after the debate, but the timing is suspicious. Biden embarrasses himself on a national stage to the point where a lot of people are speculating that Biden has no chance. Trump almost gets killed, and then within a week, they're scrambling to get a new president. It's what it is. It's all very bizarre. Apparently, Thomas Crook's parents called cops on the day of the Trump rally shooting. According to Daily Mail, his father told law enforcement he had assumed his son had gone to the shooting range at the Clareton Sportsman's Club to practice with his rifle and would be back by 1 p.m. on Saturday, CNN reported. But as time went on, he grew more concerned and phoned local law enforcement. Also very bizarre. Since their son, I think, was around 20 years old, it's not that abnormal for now an adult male to be a couple hours late. But apparently they were so suspicious of their own child, or at least his whereabouts, that they called local law enforcement after a couple hours. Here's a quick clip of one of his classmates briefly talking about him.
The signs were there, and somebody definitely had to know. Somebody, whether he was talking to somebody or somebody either just didn't realize and just overlooked it, somebody should have known because he was not a loner. And if both of his parents being counselors, how do you not see that warning sign here?
And if you want to see more from that clip, use social media and try to find it. Also, news is reporting that Thomas Crooks had 2 phones. Burner phone, anyone? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out as more info comes out. Maybe we won't. Those are my 5 new pieces of evidence and bonus articles. Let me know what you think in the comments section.
That was great. And still, people are not addressing the the detonation device, the detonation device that was found on the roof, and the explosives that were found in the vehicle, and the fact that he didn't have the training or the experience or the skill sets in order to create those things. And if so, where did he get that from? Like, where did he get that from, right? And so I don't. There's just too many suspicious things that make me think that there was help. There was help absolutely had at the very least. And I'm trying to share videos on Instagram and they're not loading. But even regarding the failed actors, that became Secret Service and law enforcement and other government organizations, there seems to be some parallels or some similarities to the looks of certain people. And I'm trying to load this, but if you look at one of the agents, he looks very similar to people that were feds that were also staging and planning events to make it look like appear that they were like white supremacist right-wing people when they were not. There were people who were just trying to elicit emotional responses in people. And yeah, I just wish it would friggin' load, but it's not. But I mean, you could see here, it's very similar. Again, like it's not to say that it's the same person, but it would be very interesting for people to look further into him and see if he is the one that is in this picture below from a little while ago. And there was more I wanted to say, but I think I will leave it at that. People have been discussing this for, again, days since Saturday, obviously. And there's just a lot of things that are not adding up. And so on that note, this was just a quick video to get, actually, no, there was another one I was going to share online. It's from Hank Swank. Usually has great stuff. So I just wanted to see what he has to say. I'll share this one first. Now it's started to not load when I shared screen. So let me see if I reload, if it will. If it will. I might have to try another one. I'm just going to close some browsers. Okay, now it seems to work.
Struggles to return her pea shooter as though it's her first day on the job. Fortuitously, her skills from a previous life as an amateur actress come into play.
Look at that. Oh.
Allowing her to convincingly mimic the swift draw of the weapon and scan the horizon for threats. Chewing her gum nonchalantly, she attempts to exude a tactical demeanor, reminiscent of a fusion between the Blues Brothers and Rosie O'Donnell.
She's trying to put it in her badge.
Despite her efforts, our agent's attempt to return her wireless hole punch to its home results in another failure. While she may have faltered at this most basic of tasks, she certainly looked cool while doing it.
I'm here from the FJB Association. They sent me over to be DJT's new frontman for his head of security for the Secret Service. What's that? Shots being fired? I'm on my way. Over here? I'm coming. I'm on my way.
Oh my God.
No, he's over here. I'm coming. Don't go anywhere. I'm coming. I've got you.
Number one DEI choice.
First off, taking a look at Donald Trump and the actual video as I played yesterday. Let's get right to it. I'm going to point something out and go into more details regarding the photographers. Let's first I'll play the video, then I'll get right to it.
That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Like I pointed out yesterday in the video, when initially this all went down, I pointed out there's a photographer, several, getting the money shot. This one in particular here is pointing out. Let's take a look here as he worms his way around the stage. Take a look here with no fear, taking photographs. Again, getting that money shot. Play a little bit more, then I'll continue on regarding this particular individual. See him there? It comes back around. There he is to get more photos. Focus on the right part of the screen. You're going to see him up here at the initial start. Here he comes running off from the far right to the left as he, again, works his way around the stage. And there you see him, come back once again. This is vital as far as this video is concerned. He went out of sight, went to the far right again. Now take a look here. Again, just released today. There he is. This is the backside of the stage, the podium, and there's Trump, obviously. Now take a look. He's waiting to get confirmation from a Secret Service member. And take a look here. You're going to see it clearly. There he is right there. Tells him, go. Get ready for that money shot. Another individual here as well. Take a look at what happened. And there you go. And as I showed previously, this is where he works his way from the right. There he is. Perfect timing, obviously, again, to make that money shot.
Director of the United States Secret Service, Kimberly Cheeto, speaks exclusively with ABC News, taking responsibility for that stunning breakdown in security.
This is an event that should have never happened.
Who is most responsible for this happening?
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
Minutes after Trump took the stage Saturday in front of thousands of people.
If we all had the luxury of hindsight 2020, the fact that she's not stepping down or fired still like blows my, like what a level of accountability is that? This is what I mean. It's a shit show in the world. There's no one getting held accountable for fudging anything. Not for COVID, not for the lies about Russia, Ukraine, or the fucking Afghanistan pullout shit show that happened. Nothing with Israel and Palestine. People that are blatantly lying to us to our fucking faces, government and media, and eliciting emotional response and people getting us involved in wars, including our fucking money that is needed in Canada and the US, if you haven't noticed. And it's getting filtered. It's not even going to the people in Ukraine, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to lobbyists, propagandists, and people have shares and stocks in the military, industrial, pharmaceutical complex. When are these people going to start getting fired? They're making it so obvious that they're all in this together. The fact that people are not getting investigated or arrested or fired or stepping down in disgrace. It's just so obvious to people, right? Like there's absolutely nothing that these fucking people can do to us or to others where they're going to be held accountable. And again, this has to be peaceful. I'm going to be very clear on that. In order to respond to the lower levels of consciousness people, you have to be vibrating at a higher level, okay, coming from the piece of like compassion and courage and love and understanding and those things. And but these people need to be investigated and they need to be in jail. Jail.
Gunman Thomas Matthew Crooks wounding the former president and 3 others before a Secret Service counter sniper took him out.
He's fired. I'm being told that the shooter was actually identified as a potential person of suspicion. Units started responding to seek that individual out. Unfortunately, with the rapid succession of how things unfolded, by the time that individual was eventually located, they were on the rooftop and were able to fire off at the former president.
ABC News now learning that heavily armed local police were actually stationed inside the building.
Yep.
The gunman climbed, but they missed him. Butler town officials confirming that after they became aware of the threat, a local police officer climbed up to the roof and confronted Crooks, but did not. So,
you know, when you have like, I'm going to relate this to the military because, again, I was an infantry officer for 15 years. And then since then, I've done work with the highest levels of friggin' government and for multiple different contracts. And it's like if you have like an ORV or an OP or even like a cop, like an area that military people, like you have people that do sentries and then people that do like observation and all of these things in order to make sure that people don't get inside the compound. It's like it's as if the enemy breached with all of that security. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be providing security and overwatch and all these things. It's 360, and so how if that building that shooter went on top of, scaled and went on top of, and apparently was like there for a little bit, how'd that even happen? If literally there was multiple law enforcement people or security people in that building. So there should have been people around the building. There should have been people on top of the building. There should have been all of that stuff. And so again, it's even more embarrassing that they're even admitting that was a staging area. Like that's so, oh my God. Yeah, fired.
Succeed in stopping him.
What was your reaction when you saw the events unfold on Saturday?
That should have been the last place or the second last place where any person of interest or suspect or anything could have gained any form of access to, whether it be inside or outside.
Shock, and then concern, obviously. for the former president.
Investigators now trying to determine whether roof access had been properly locked down. The shooter climbing up seemingly unimpeded, about 400 feet from the stage, with a direct line of sight on the former president.
Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
Cheeto says the Secret Service was responsible for the inner perimeter.
The slope that those two snipers were on was more of an angle. And so there was more of a slope on the rooftop that they were on, snipers, than the other roof.
Of the rally.
And protection of the principal, or the protectee, or the VIP, or however you want to call him. Principal is what we use in my industry. Your safety, it does not trumps. I hope I'm making that clear, right? Like you're to serve and protect, and you're supposed to be like willing, obviously, even as a bodyguard too, especially to put your life on the line to protect your principal. That's the part of the job. That's why you get paid the big bucks.
But local police were responsible for the outer perimeter where the gunman was located. In Washington, lawmakers demanding answers, calling on the Secret Service director to appear before Congress.
We will be transparent, both internally with my own folks and externally with members of Congress and with the American public. That's what the public deserves.
The president and Homeland Security Secretary said today they had 100% confidence in you, but there are some members of Congress calling on you to resign.
I appreciate the secretary's comments, and we're going to continue to be transparent and communicate with people.
Do you plan to stay on? Absolutely.
I do plan to stay on.
Take a look what happened. Take a look what happened.
Hold up. I apologize.
And we're going to continue to be transparent and communicate with people.
It doesn't look like there's any blood on his hands. Sorry, that's where I was trying to go at. Again, this is like they're doing this as part of an assessment. So like there's even overlays over his face and stuff like that. But it's very interesting to me. Now I'm going to look at the other videos to see like when he moves his hand away, like it didn't look like there was any blood. I could be wrong, obviously. I just want to see again, but.
Take a look what happened.
Didn't look like there was any blood. Interesting.
You guys are.
I'm just making observations. I'm going to further look into multiple videos in order to see if that's actually a thing, because that would be very interesting. If when he touched his ear and went back, if there was no blood, that'd be, again, very interesting. And there's a couple other things too that again were just very sketchy.
Out here on the heels of the attempted Trump assassination, can I get your reaction to what happened the other day?
Well, it's a shame the person missed, but
oh my God,
it's ironic that the shooter was also a Republican.
And it had just been a newly registered Republican. Just to be clear on that, you're morbidly obese. You're wearing a friggin' oh my God, like there's so much I could. No.
And I am scared about political violence.
You're scared of political violence, but you
just said that you too bad the guy missed. I'm afraid of political violence. What the fuck is that? An assassination of Trump of the president. What the fuck would that be classified as? With your little ears, like your furry fucking.
You were hoping that he wouldn't have missed.
Yes.
Wow. Could you elaborate on that? I mean, many people are thankful that the shooter missed and could have led to a lot of conflict in the country.
Regardless if Trump is in power or not, he has a lot of influence, and that makes him a very dangerous person, and nothing will stop. And we want to live, and sometimes Thomas Jefferson wrote a letter that included one of my favorite quotes, that sometimes the tree of liberty needs to be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
Do you hope to see others also, if all that holds true, do you want to see others try what this young man tried at the Trump rally?
I don't know if it would do any good.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. I see you have a crossbow over here. Can you tell me a little bit more about it and why you decided to bring it here? You have I don't know what it is. It looks like a crossbow.
Yeah, it's a pistol crossbow. I don't like firearms. This is a much safer alternative, and it's used only for personal defense as an absolute last resort.
Wow.
I hope I never have to use it.
Why did you feel compelled to bring it here? Do you feel unsafe?
Very much so. I'm absolutely terrified to be here.
I had one last question for you since it caught my eye. I see you have a hammer and sickle tattoo. Can you tell me more about this tattoo?
I was born in the Soviet Union. I was brought here when I was a little kid, but it's just a symbolism of where I came from. No, I do not support.
Notice this, whatever this is not in law enforcement, not military, none of that stuff. Couldn't even make it. And just like, that's just like crazy.
Russia. Crazy. No, I don't condone anything that it does or that Putin has done. I would consider myself more of a socialist, but
no, we know.
It's just a symbol of where I was born.
He said there's going to be a new wave of patriotism coming out, and that's whenever I saw Trump, and I saw a red wave coming out of Michigan, and then I saw Oklahoma, and there was embers of people, and they were all on they had torches all throughout Oklahoma, and they were raising up these torches that looked like fire, and they were bringing forth a new patriotism upon the nation, and it was being birthed, and it just kept spreading like fire all throughout America, all throughout. And I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. I saw him winning the presidency through great. The Lord showed me it would go clear into the summer. Great persecution would come on him through the judges and through the law and all these people trying to sue him and all this stuff. But there would be a stop to it, and things would start to break free come toward the fall. And then I saw him winning the election through the Patriots coming out and voting, and then there will be a great economy crash. Yeah. I saw they had a great economy plan, a crash, worse than the Great Depression. And then I could see that darkness that was the heaviness upon America with the financial crisis of what I saw coming. It started to lift above the trees, and I saw the blue and the things coming back out, and the green times and the good times coming back again. But the Lord said it would be forth a time of a season of a shaking, and it would be a shaking to awaken.
Who is that? Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to. No, they're bringing I see all of the Secret Services
Oh yeah, we're front row, and my friend saw blood coming out of his head.
Oh my God! Oh Jesus!
There he is. Oh, there he is. There he is. There he is.
There he is. Oh my God!
He's walking. He's walking.
Here we are a few days after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. What we know so far and what has broken since then. There was supposedly one shooter on a steep roof that took a shot at Donald Trump and just grazed his ear as he moved his head. Now, Kimberly Cheetle, the head of the Secret Service, has turned around and said that the reason why they did not have their own sniper team on that roof was because it was too steep. Now, anyone who's been following this has seen the pictures of the sniper team already on a steep roof just off and behind to Donald Trump. Now, that seems strange in itself. Also, Kimberly Cheetle has said that the Secret Service weren't there in force because they were off protecting Jill Biden. Seems a bit strange to me. Also, something that has broken in the last few days, there has been 2 videos that suggest there was a second shooter. One lady does an interview and says there was a second shooter. Another video shows a bullet ricocheting off of the framework on the parade stand that was behind Donald Trump.
Something that said, take a look what happened. Something that said, take a look what happened. What happened? Take a look what happened.
You see like the muzzle blast, you see the smoke, like there's.
So, is there two shooters or was there only one? Who knows? The FBI as well are already washing off the roof. Why are the FBI washing the roof off? That is a strange one. Also, this one is a bit of a doozy. The building that the sniper, shooter, whatever you want to call him, was on top of was actually the local police HQ for the operation. Now that is seriously embarrassing. Also,
coincidence.
The shooter was supposedly already approached once by local police. Then he went round again looking at the building, got approached again. Then he climbed up on the roof where two local police officers, once they were alerted to him being up there, decided to climb up on each other's shoulders to have a look over the roof. Now, they looked over, then they got back down because they realised he had a rifle.
No, one of the
and
guys
then
called.
they didn't call anyone. Surely someone should have seen that. There was a long period between.
Yeah, apparently, like he went up to look, and he didn't have his friggin' firearm in his hand as he was going up to clear the area, and which anyway, and yeah, he fell.
The shooter being on the roof and someone taking him out, and in that time, he managed to get off 5 shots at least. So, some very, very strange things here on this shooting. Now, what I would like to know is why didn't the police climb the ladder that the shooter climbed? There has been a massive failure of protection here, and someone needs to hold their hand up and say, I screwed up.
The Secret Service have now released their preliminary report and admitted that in Butler, Pennsylvania,
It's part of kit, right? Like especially like for specialized teams, like even divers and things like that. Like you bring ladders.
For 26 minutes.
Exactly.
I'd said a couple minutes for videos I'd seen.
And where did the ladder come from? How was that able to be placed without former knowledge, without like people like seeing it? You know, like that's suspicious. That's weird.
The shooter was on top of the roof. Police went up to see. He aimed a gun at them, and they ran away and asked permission of what to do. This is a paralyzed government of bureaucrats. Nobody on the roof. So this is a Secret Service stand down, 110%. AP, Reuters, all reporting like it's no big deal. 26 minutes. This guy is on top of this roof with no one there, with the president 450 feet away so he can shoot him. Ladies and gentlemen, this is insane. This is next level. This is a Secret Service stand down. And now that they failed to kill Trump, they're going to go for broke. But it's now confirmed there was a stand down. That whole building was full of police or directed to be anywhere, like on a roof while the president's speaking. I am stunned by this coming.
Okay, I'll stop with him. Yeah, he's I think he's also part of the propaganda machine, and so and he says crazy shit too. But I mean, like sometimes I do as well. But yeah, he's I think part of the propaganda, and he does have some good stuff sometimes. But and having Austin Whitsitt on InfoWars, like that was pretty cool. There's so many more people now that like believe it, like that not believe that know the moon landings were fake and that the Earth is flat, or an electrical magnetic reality cosmos that's being projected on a flat plane of inertia, and the electricity and magnetism, or electromagnetism, using the visible and non-visible light spectrum. But yeah, so even yesterday I got my hair done. I don't get it dyed. I haven't dyed my hair in a few years, but I did a bang thing and a bit of a trim. I don't know why I'm saying that, but yeah, so it's down because I just got it done. And I don't have my hairdresser blow dry my hair, just the front, just to make sure that the bangs are level, but not the rest of the hair because it's actually pretty damaging to hair. So I've been asked that before about my hair care routine. I try to wash my hair as little as possible to get the natural oils, you know, to like make it more lubricated and healthier. And I try to use ingredients that are chemical free, phosphate free, and I try to air dry my hair as much as possible. And even if I were to dye my hair, it would be with as healthy of ingredients as possible, like a natural thing. But anyway, there was one more thing I wanted to share regarding the suspicions regarding the Donald Trump assassination attempt. And it's because they did talk about there being the possible second shooter. Even Redacted also brought it up. So I don't know how much of this video I'm going to share, but they're probably going to be sharing the same clips.
Right? That's the official story. There's now overwhelming evidence to overturn that official story and raise serious questions that at the very least he had help, and at the most there were multiple shooters. We spoke to an eyewitness who was in the bleachers behind President Trump. She witnessed Corey being shot and killed and saw gunshots hitting multiple locations. And we're going to share that interview with you here in a moment. It's shocking. It's heartbreaking. She's an amazing woman. She comes from an amazing family. And we're going to hear her story in a second. It'll blow your mind. Now, first, though, moments ago, the House of Representatives subpoenaed the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle. Here is from Congress of the United States of America and the House of Representatives and the Committee on Oversight and Accountability.
I seen a bit of Austin's. I was going to watch that actually after this. I was going to watch Austin, his assessment of the failed assassination attempt. I'm going to assume that he's going to say that, like, obviously not to stress out about this stuff. He's going to bring in facts. He's going to bring in some evidence, possibly. And I think that he's going to be like, he's more cautious. I wouldn't say cautious. Again, he's like willing to go to Antarctica and other stuff. And he shares like a lot of like bold stuff, intelligent stuff online, but that's also very controversial. So, but there are people even in the truther community that are saying like, don't blame on what's the term that you would use, but don't blame malice on incompetence. I guess it's along those lines. And so there's a series of events that happened that were absolutely inadequate, to say the least. And so could that be incompetence, or could that be something that was deliberate? And so, yeah. And so I'm not suggesting that I'm 100% committed to the fact that this is a possible stage and plan event. I'm just sharing a lot of information that shows me that there's a lot more that we need to look at. There's a lot of sketchy things that happened even leading up to the event, and even talking again about his graduation ceremony, that even 30 minutes after the graduation ceremony was completed, he was scrubbed from the video. These are interesting things. The fact that he didn't have a social media presence that would indicate that. The fact that his parents would call randomly a few hours after he was deemed missing, even though, again, he's an adult. And so just so many different things to look at. And it's not out of the realm of the possible. It's not outside of that realm, because there's been a lot of staged and planned events where people have died or been very close to dying. And it was because of people writing the scripts and planning and coordinating and executing these events in the first place. So I would absolutely agree that there was a lot of incompetence there, but was that by design? Because even when you look at like the higher level professionals, there's times when they want things to look sloppy, because then it takes the attention away from them. You wouldn't assume they would do that. So even working with cartels and things like that, the cartels are a little bit less, the leading edge when it comes to executing their missions, I guess you would say, their operations. And so sometimes people that are higher functioning or higher level training, they will make things look sloppy to try to make it look divert the attention away. I hope that makes sense.
and Congressman Comer's office, saying that, wait a minute, you were going to appear.
Yeah, you know what? I actually love that comment. I don't think we have enough information yet. Anyone that says immediately that it was totally fake or today legit are both wrong. Sorry, it was totally fake or not. I guess was what you mean. There's still, there's still a lot of information that needs to be looked at. Yep.
Before Congress on Monday about the failure of the Secret Service, but now
I wasn't there.
Alejandro Mayorkas, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, has stepped in and will not allow her to testify. What? Really? What is Alejandro Mayorkas trying to prevent her from saying in front of Congress?
Well, it's interesting, on the same day that DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, says we're going to do our own investigation, meaning Congress, we don't really need you. You don't need her. We've got this. So you need to step back. She actually doesn't need a congressional testimony. She doesn't need to be photographed or videotaped answering real questions. We're on this one.
Someone in the chat says, Clayton forgot to shave today. No, I didn't. I intentionally didn't shave today. You want to hear a story? The other day, I shaved and cut my nose wide open, and blood was pouring for like 20 minutes. Like an hour. I couldn't stop it.
Yes, I had to run to the drugstore and get him a styptic pen.
So I'm holding off on the shaving for a few days.
So he's rocking the 5 o'clock shadow
I got the
on
5 o'clock.
purpose.
Yeah, it's not unintentional. Thanks to the chat for being eagle-eyed, though. I appreciate that. So now, according to the subpoena, Kimberly Cheadle was set to testify. She's not any longer, and so now as you point out, Congress is saying we're going to take matters into our own hand. We're going to subpoena. We want all of the diagrams, photos, aerial information, communication that you guys had on the day and leading up to this event. Fascinating. So we'll see if we get answers from Congress on this.
Including what was the plan? We know what was executed. We know where people were and where people were not, quite obviously not, right?
Yeah.
But was there a different plan? Because there are some people, including Dan Bongino, who was former Secret Service agent, saying, oh, no, there was a plan to have people on that roof. So what happened?
She stood them.
Yeah, actually, and I will make a comment about that. And so there are people that that may not, like we can't prove it with beyond a shadow of a doubt that things were suspicious, possibly staged and planned, possibly executed poorly by design. Who knows? But I do come with experience and skill sets where I can make analysis on opinions based on my level of experience that is drastically different than I would say like 99.999% of the population, by virtue of the fact that, again, I was an infantry officer for over 15 years. I've deployed, including the war zones. I've done executive protection even for the heads of the Bank of Canada. And so there's a lot to that, and for the Prime Minister and for the heads of sports teams and you name it. And I've done the course coordination and the training for the highest levels of government for the people that respond to natural and man-made disasters internationally, and including DART in that, and SARTEX and military and Global Affairs Canada and these people, and still can teach this even now. I'm still current, and anyways, a lot of people are not training like they should be more these days, and other agent and so I've got that level of experience to understand things really not adding up and lining up, and how things could have just got to that level, right? When there were so many indicators of him being a threat, again, even minutes prior to, right? But even like over an hour, there's just a lot of suspicious things. And the fact that he was like in plain sight on that rooftop, right? Like it would be obvious for even people in the crowd if they were to scan their area to see this obvious threat. Especially if he was, and there's just so many things that are just like, they just don't make sense. And so when I was combat support company second in command, I also had in my company snipers, reconnaissance, and signals, like I've said before. And so knowing how to employ and train snipers and assisting with courses and things like that, and also firing sniper rifles and working with them, like I've said, and so I can give that level of experience as well that other people cannot give, right? And so, and Dan Bongino, he did this job. He did that job for years, right? And he was incredibly good at it, right? And so that's why he's so freaking famous right now. And so he can make assessments that are beyond what, like, again, like a normal, not normal, but like the average or typical human would be able to do. And the same thing with Tim Kennedy. He was a sniper in the Special Forces, and again, still does like high level stuff. Like he even assisted with the getting people out of Ukraine because of the yeah, what's been going on there, and countless other Afghanistan as well. He assisted with that, and that was a shit show. And so he can provide more of an assessment than, again, like 99.999% of the population. I had her pause at the wrong time.
We now know she stood them down. They were told to stand down and not go on that roof for their safety because of a sloping roof, which is, okay, that's now her responsibility. That's her fault. Why did she ask them to stand down and not go on that sloped roof?
Right.
Which everyone is mocking now, of course. So you need to
The
ask
memes
yourself.
are everything, though, about the slope. I'm at least having fun with that. I hope you are too.
Yeah, if you're watching on Twitter, you see the cows on slanted roofs and so forth. They have cows and all sorts of things on slanted roofs. So anyway, I want to know why Mayorkas doesn't want her to testify. Why? What is Alejandro Mayorkas trying to hide by not having her go in front of Congress? And new video has just surfaced from the deep state, Satan herself, Victoria Nuland.
Oh my God.
Here she is just a few hours before the shooting, guaranteeing that Trump won't be president because a surprise is coming.
Our economy, et cetera. So I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be president. So if that's what Putin's betting on, he's going to get a unhappy surprise. I think that is number one.
That means nothing. Honestly, I'm not going to go anywhere with that.
She seems very psychic. She knew the Nord Stream pipeline would not go into effect. That's strange.
She's great at predictions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if we should hire her for some kind of, Madame Crystal Ball events. That'd be funny. She might be fun at parties.
She'd be great. And yeah, it'd be like, call me now. What was her name? The old,
Brown?
call the hotline. Call me now. Anyway,
I don't know.
Victoria. Anyway,
I'd be checking her family tree to see if that shooter came from, like if he's anywhere in her branches.
Well, yeah, I mean, other than the fact that he was in a BlackRock commercial inside a school, and then BlackRock, of course, we know their connections to the federal government and the CIA. So other than that connection, who knows? But again, they want you to believe that he's the guy, right? Thomas Crooks. They want you to believe that he's the shooter, right? Meanwhile, CBS is reporting that a detonator was found on Crooks's body right next to where his body was shot and killed on that rooftop. His parents also called police on the day of the rally. Really? He's missing? He's 20 years old?
So we're learning the shooter's parents called law enforcement on the day of the rally to say they couldn't find their son. We know they're cooperating with law enforcement, and this comes as a new photograph obtained by local station found next to Thomas Matthew Crooks' body after the attempted assassination. Crooks had explosives inside his car, found parked near the rally, and bomb-making.
Is that a shotgun slug? Detonator phone.
Materials inside his home. The alarming photo raises questions about whether Crooks had other plans as he opened fire. Less than 200 yards away from the rally stage, while positioned on a rooftop, which the Secret Service says was within the perimeter delegated to local law enforcement.
And now we're learning that police knew about Crooks 3 hours before the shooting. He came in with a rangefinder, and police and Secret Service said they'd keep an eye on him. They were aware of him. And new video from DC Drano this morning reveals the shooter was walking around 1 hour beforehand. Take a look. So you can see him here in the background there, walking around, scouting out the location, apparently. This is 1 hour beforehand, walking around, looking up, security. What's this guy doing here? But that's an hour beforehand, 1 hour ahead of time. And police didn't engage him. He was allowed to leave the area. Where's his gun, by the way, at this point?
Yeah.
Well, he was actually allowed to leave the area and only return with it was able to come back with a backpack. Eventually climbing on the ladder near that HVAC unit onto the structure behind the buildings and then onto the roof.
Well, some reporting says that he went through security check.
He did
and
go.
Security said,
With a
let's keep
rangefinder.
an eye on him. But then they didn't.
Right.
Then let's, the same way you keep an eye on your kid when you're at a barbecue.
So you bring a rangefinder, which is not maybe altogether that crazy. I mean, after all,
It's still what a number two would be using in order to acquire the distance of a target, right? So that it's a little free and weird, right? That we use them in the infantry to acquire targets and again to get the details on the distances and stuff like that.
You've got a lot of
Why would he
individuals
have
who, are using it to be able to see closer.
Sure.
So that, you want to, like you wear, use binoculars at a musical or something like that, right? To get a closer view of the stage.
Like at the opera, those.
Like the little monocle thing.
Old. Sure.
And when I go to a concert at a festival these days, they open your backpack and they check it. You're going into
Yeah.
a presidential convention with a backpack that's not checked?
Well, interesting piece about the backpack story. I spoke to an eyewitness on this who said they were told and sent emails before their arrival, no bags, not allowed to bring bags, no bags. And eyewitnesses were seeing other people were bringing bags and saying, well, they're going to be upset because they're going to have their bags taken. Like, why are you bringing a bag? We got emails saying explicitly no bags. And then they were able to bring bags right through security. They didn't take people's bags at all. Couldn't even look through them. This is unbelievable. So what's going on here with the bag searches? They received emails saying no bags. People showed up with bags and were allowed to bring bags in. Okay, that's a huge lapse. I'd love to hear Kim Cheadle's response to that. Why did they make that sudden change? Why was that suddenly allowed to happen when they had received precautionary emails ahead of time? I wouldn't bring a bag if I saw that. I'd be like, no, they're going to take my backpack.
Right.
Right. So why didn't bring it?
I mean, Clayton's been known to smuggle burritos
into a movie
places. Yeah. Where we're not supposed to bring in food.
Yeah.
He has done that.
But not a rifle.
But not in a backpack. In his pocket.
Now I just carry burritos in my pocket, if you know what I mean. All right, so now we have new video evidence also shows the shots fired at the hydraulics that were coming from the back left side of the stage. People reported shots hit, and then you can see like a gas exploding. People were wondering where all this like mist and gas was coming from. Now we know that was hitting this hydraulics behind the stage, and then it created like a bit of a cloud there. So this is coming from the left side. And you can see on the left side of your screen, this person ducking down as well. And these shots coming from the left side, according to eyewitnesses. And we have eyewitnesses saying these initial shots came from the direction of the gymnastics building that we talked about here yesterday on the show, which is about 400 yards away. And again, this is also in the same direction as the water tower from that direction to that stage where that hydraulic section was hit and where when those other bystanders were also hit. Behind the stage area where President Trump was speaking, over 400 yards away. A building, by the way, the gymnastics building, that was vacant on Saturday and which had the same line of sight as the water tower. Multiple eyewitnesses now say the water tower direction. Yeah. Shots were fired
the fact that there was no aerial surveillance when that's SOP also, or should be, is it blows my mind, because even on patrols and stuff like that, like in Afghanistan, like even like over a freaking decade ago, like there was like you had aerial surveillance assisting with your patrols.
From that location, multiple eyewitnesses.
And they had been right by the fence where the other shooter was. There was one I heard in the water tower. There was one by the fence. And still initial reports. But what we do now.
First crack of the gunfire, and I just screamed, "It's the sniper! It's the sniper!" And he was firing down toward the water tower.
That's what we're hearing.
Gentleman behind me, I was one seat. He was to the right of me. He could see the sharpshooter behind Trump. He said the sharpshooter shot to the left. He killed the gentleman in the water tower here.
CNN almost had a heart attack yesterday when U.S. Army sniper Corey Mills was on CNN and suggests that the July 13th assassination attempt on Trump could have been a setup. And he also pointed out the water tower, and Kate Baldwin like flipped out. She's like, "Oh my, what? You're saying this was a setup?" And he's like, "All the evidence."
Who knows?
He's like, "I know. I hate to say it." And they're almost like freaking out. Like, what are they going to do? Like cut away from him? But here he is, he's done this thousands of times. He's a veteran U.S. Army sniper, and he said just doesn't add up.
Yeah, and even Dallas Alexander from Canada said the same thing.
Had to be a setup. Watch.
Not the same thing. Like he wasn't tracking like the water, like any of that stuff. This was he probably is now, but he was saying that again, even from his experiences and skill sets and stuff like that, that it didn't measure up.
I look at all of these things, and I look at different videos where an assailant will pull a firearm on a law enforcement officer, and the first thing that they do is they immediately pull and draw and mitigate the threat and the risk. I ask why the local law enforcement officer did not do so. The other thing is that when you set up an advanced team, I keep hearing this about the perimeter elements.
Yeah.
The perimeter is actually established by your threats that are in the area. So if I don't have any threats outside of 100 yards, okay, fine, I can cordon off a certain area. But if I have a building 160 yards, perfectly adjacent to the stage, that's an obvious threat, especially with an elevated position that has overwatch. That's a sniper's paradise. And we talk about eagle's nest. You also have, which no one talks about, but the water tower.
So what I'm hearing from you is it's not a failure on the ground for sure, but also a failure in advance.
I think it's a failure in advance. I think it's a failure to.
So then he dives deeper into the setup and the water tower. It's great. It's like 8 minutes long. I encourage you all to watch it. Now, earlier today, I spoke with Melody Hook, an eyewitness. She was there. She was behind Donald Trump in the bleachers with her husband and family. She saw Corey shot and killed right before her eyes. She says the official story is not true. You need to hear this, and wait until you hear what she says about the shooter's bomb-making evidence and the bomb crew and the FBI who showed up to take away that evidence. Watch.
The shots came from behind that red harvester that was sitting there. It didn't come from in front of it. Yes.
So it didn't come from the building that it's coming from.
Well, see, that's just it. We were in the bleachers. Corey was positioned over here. He was on the far side there was 3 sets of bleachers. Trump was in the middle. We were here. And then there was another set off to the other side. We were in the same set that Corey was in. So he was
Corey, who lost his life, the firefighter who lost his life.
Yes. Yes. He was clear to the one end and we were kind of towards the other end. Like we watched the snipers go up onto the roof, get into position. And prior to that, I said to my husband, okay, we have a 5 o'clock start time. Trump's to speak at 5 o'clock. What's going on here? So the snipers did not go onto the roof. I look back on my photos last night's time. They didn't go onto the roof till 5:08 is the time I took pictures of them climbing up the roof on the 2 roofs behind us. We only saw 4 snipers positioned that evening. Could there have been more off that we couldn't see? Possibly, but those are the only 4 that we saw. So they get up there. It was around 5:08 when I was recording them, and they kept looking. After they got up there, they kept looking to straight ahead of them. And down below on the ground there's like military. But I said to my husband kind of jokingly, I'm like, wow, seems kind of lax, like not that much presence of like protection right around where Trump is going to be at. For somebody as big as what Trump is, I was a little bit dumbfounded. Like I jokingly said to my friend the day before that, she says, listen, I'm worried about you. I don't want you to go into this. There's crazies everywhere. I said, listen, we're going to the safest place I feel we could be. There's going to be so much Secret Service there, blah, blah, blah. I said, the only thing I'm worried about is my cell phone dying because I don't know if my battery's going to last. Like just joking about it because I felt safe. Fast forward ahead a little bit, we get to the point where it's almost time for Trump to come out. And they start, playing different music and everything. And music starts, Trump starts to come out. And of course, we're all focused on him. No, that's who you're waiting to see. You're not going to look around at anything else around you. You're just focused on him. He comes out, like I said, he talks to my son and his my friend's dad, like they're yelling, we love you, Trump. And he stops and points at him, says, I love you too. And just calm and cool. And he goes out and interacts with some people, goes up and starts talking. And like, we're only a few minutes into it. Like he only spoke 10 minutes. Right. It wasn't very long. Yeah. He was speaking at all. So all of a sudden you hear like all this commotion off to our right. And it's just like, but like I said, you're at a Trump rally. It's noisy. People are not quiet at a Trump rally. So I just kind of looked at my husband, gave him like this weird look. And at that point, I think he was more this way than Trump. Like he's starting to get, so we're just sitting there and all of a sudden you heard it. You just hear the gunshots. And sorry. I looked down at my niece and I just yelled at the boys. I said, get Riley. So they dove, they just like dog piled on top of her. They're just laying on her, covering her. There was a couple of kids behind us, and I grabbed the little girl, just held her, and I said, I got you. I got you. And I laid on top of her down, and I put her down in the bleachers and where your feet go. And I'm laying on her, and I just start praying, like, please, God, please make sure we're okay. Save us, you know. Sorry, my dog was working. I'm like, please just save us. And I was just trying my hardest to compose myself, but I didn't know what to do. So we're all laying there, and the thing I remember the most was Riley looking up at me and just the fear in her face and the screaming. She would not stop screaming. That's all it was. It was just pure panic. And the shots just acted like they lasted forever and they weren't stopping. And I'm telling you, I never, ever, like, it was surreal. It was just, I did not dream something like that was going to happen. I saw Corey get hit with, I saw him get shot, and I yelled, because you got to think this all took place within seconds, like seconds. And I yelled back, like where we were at, the bleachers were kind of open, and I yelled back at the security behind us, and I yelled, he's been shot. He's been shot. And I think at this time they could all, like, just everybody was stunned. Like nobody had a clue what to do or where to go. And by this time, then they come up around, and our set of bleachers was just flooded with cops. Like right now, they just come out of everywhere. Let's just put it this way, where my kids were sitting at, when we look at the pictures of how the bleachers were, I don't know how it missed them, because they were right in line with all of that, just the way everything was going. And yeah, and I am beyond angry. I am beyond frustrated, because this could have been 1000% prevented. There was nobody over there. There was nobody to watch us, and there was nobody to protect us. And when you have that many people there and there's a chance of something like that, I feel you need to have more than less. And there was definitely not more than less that day. I want answers. I want to know why we were all put in such danger. Like, and a good friend of mine,
It's real.
Like my phone was blowing up because so many knew we were there. And a friend of mine messaged me. I don't want to say names or anything, but she messaged me and she says to me, she says, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. You know, everything's okay. We're home." And this was later that evening. This was later into the evening. And she says to me, she said, FBI and bomb squad are at our house. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well," so I was asking her last night, I said, "How far away are you from where this all took place?" And she said, "Probably like, 10 miles, maybe, if that." They found the white van. The white van was found. She saw them tow it from right around her location. It was right next door to her.
10
the white
miles.
van that was supposedly full of explosives, and that guy was supposed to have had a detonator on him. Now you tell me why he goes to all the hassle when he has a van full of explosives and a detonator. Why was it parked 10 miles away from the fairgrounds? 10
miles. And how does a 20-year-old scrawny guy in summer heat walk with a gun all the way from that 10 miles to this location?
Exactly.
And the timing's
What did she say the FBI and the bomb squad said to her? They say anything to her?
All that she would tell me was that they told her that they could not leave their residence. They were to stay indoors, and they could not divulge any information. I don't care if Trump is if you hate him tremendously, if you can wish evil upon somebody, you need to find your heart. I mean,
Yeah,
we
that's
need
true.
God back in our country so bad.
Mm.
I went to church yesterday and prayed with our pastor after work because I don't know how to navigate this. I don't know how to be strong for my son. I don't know how to be strong for my niece. I lay down at night. I hear the screams. I hear the shots. I see all the fear on everybody's faces. I see us all laying on top of each other, trying to protect each other. How do you get that out of your head? Like, I don't know how to go about. I don't know. I don't know how to do it.
Time. That's all it takes.
I mean, think about having to dive onto your child to protect her in those stands, and then those people.
Yeah, it's definitely traumatic for people. I was saying it when I wasn't back on the screen, but the reason why they would not be alerted or warned off or any of that stuff is because then you wouldn't get like as much of a realistic response, and because people are getting better at staging and planning events. Again, I'm not saying that this is what happened. But if you look even at Sandy Hook, I've shared irrefutable. I won't say irrefutable. That's wrong because people want to fucking argue everything. But take a look at my videos on that. You will not find that on YouTube. I don't think. It likely got deleted, but you'll definitely find it on Rumble, Don189, and just the level of actors that were used, the amount of actors that were used, possibly.
Watching,
and then of course with January 6th, the same thing. There were people that died, and people that are very traumatized, and people that are still in jail till this day, and even the Coots brothers and the trial that's going on. It's a circus, and there's people that are getting needlessly traumatized, including the families of these people that are in jail, not being able to see that their loved ones, and some of these people are the breadwinners and providers for the family. So this is really impacting people profoundly, and yeah, so there's definitely trauma, and so what she experienced and saw, clearly there's going to be PTSD there, and there's going to be anxiety and flashbacks and all of this stuff. And I would like to say that it completely disappears through time. It won't, but you can manage it more effectively as time goes on. Anyways, people can if they do the things that are needed to manage. Yeah.
A few seats over from you be killed in Corey.
And until that moment, I hadn't considered how intimidating this is for Trump supporters as well. Who's going to feel safe now going to a rally, and how intimidating this is for the political process. It's very discouraging for those of us who think that we are exercising our right to support our candidate of choice.
Right.
And what the repercussions are for that. Something that has been haunting me all day is that the Butler County Sheriff, Michael Sloop, said that the officer who climbed up on the roof, encountered the shooter, had the gun pointed at him, and then climbed right back down, said, well, that guy's not a coward. He's a hero, because had he not interfered, then the bullet would have been fired sooner. President Trump would not have turned his head. And so that makes it a near miss. So that guy is a hero. But you can't have it both ways, because by that logic, that guy got the fireman killed. And so you're just choosing one life for another, because by that logic, had it hit President Trump, it would have missed the innocent civilian. And so you're choosing which life to value there, which is a horrible thing to do. So I can't get on board with that. Like, oh, we just delayed the crime, because isn't the job of law enforcement to stop the crime?
Also,
full stop.
And he shouldn't have been on stage if that had already happened. And that was another point as well. If there's a threat level that escalates, then the principal does not go on stage. Like, that should have never happened.
It's a lie, because we have eyewitnesses who saw that police officer climb up the ladder, climb up and confront, get face to face with this individual, and then fall off down to the ground.
Right.
So not, oh, there's a guy with a gun. Okay, you're shooting, you're pointing a gun at me. Let me back off. I'm going to go back down that ladder. No, this person, he just fell off. He just fell off the ladder onto the ground.
Do you think, what are we surmised from that?
Well, I'm saying that this idea that he was like heroic, and he's like, you better put that gun down. I'm going to back up. And he bought time for President Trump.
Right.
Like, he saved President Trump's life because he backed up.
Right.
And then he fell There was no reporting of that from the sheriff. He fell off the ladder, fell down to the ground.
But again, if you're taking credit for saving Trump, you have to take responsibility for having the fireman killed.
Anyway.
That's the only way that logic works, right? And so then that family has now a case, in my opinion. If you've just said we saved this guy by delaying this, then you're responsible for the death of the innocent man. I don't know. I would like to, again, I have an appetite for consequences for all involved in this. So
yeah, and the 2 motorcycle police officers who assisted the Trump team when they were leaving, and they were now suspended as a result of it because they didn't have the authority to go after and help the Trump team. So 2 motorcycle police officers we're now also hearing reports about. So I think the official story is now collapsing. And I think we need to be very skeptical when the government tells us anything. And you're having all of these eyewitnesses, and you have, for instance, Melody and her husband, who are avid hunters, who are around guns all the time. They know. And you have all of these eyewitnesses who are seeing individuals and hearing gunshots coming from a direction that was not where this building was. Why do you also have Kimberly Cheadle telling these Secret Service officers not to go on top of that rooftop? Why was there no one else in the water tower?
Right.
Why were these locations not secured? Why was their security cleared out behind President Trump during the speech? All of these things. And now Kimberly Cheadle is not going to be testifying because Alejandro Mayorkas, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, doesn't want her going before Congress. Like, really?
Well, and it'd be one thing if her story was consistent, but her saying that about the sloped roof when that's not as sloped as where they had the snipers, like her whole logic falls apart.
No, it never was cohesive to begin with. And
I'd almost believe it more, Natalie. We were talking this morning. It was pretty hot that day. It would almost be more believable if she said, "Well, it was hot that day. We didn't want these guys on a hot roof."
It was cat on a hot tin roof.
Cat on a hot tin
Actually,
roof.
that's a redacted viewer who pointed that out. Like it was record temperatures, so it might have been hot up there. And he's laying there for how long? His behavior seems more and more to me almost like the Imperious Curse from Harry Potter. Like he was put under something, doing something on someone's behalf. But I think that another interesting part of this is that as this narrative crumbles, how the media continues to hold to the single narrative, right? We've seen rumblings around, it was Iran. Okay, there was a threat of Iran, but there was no increased security because of Iran. And they continue to lack curiosity about these pieces that continue to have the rug pulled out from under them. So that just makes us want to ask even more questions because we're not even a week out from the event. So we're going to continue to ask them here on Redacted.
No, and I also should point out, I mean, I've said multiple times here on the show, the deep state will not allow him to become president of the United States, right? And we have confirmation of this from multiple Democratic sources. Chuck Schumer speaking on behalf of the CIA, basically.
Yes.
Warning that something bad is going to happen to President Trump if he keeps needling the CIA and the deep state, basically. Victoria Nuland.
Yes.
Just hours before saying the same thing. So again, they do not want him to become president of the United States, regardless of how you feel about him and if you feel like he's like divinity walking in a human body. But nevertheless, the deep state is not happy with him. They do not want him to be president of the United States. And they absolutely fear that he comes in and
I think the deep state wants nothing more than Trump to be the president-elect. To be perfectly honest with you, left and right part of the same bird.
Clean, and he shuts them down. That's their greatest fear, that he ends their jobs.
Yes.
So we'll have more on this. We're going to continue to follow the story, and we're going to continue.
That was good. I know I'm running a long video again. I just want to share another thing from Hank Swank. I haven't seen this video yet. I don't know why I said it like that. But it's a special with Larry Johnson. I haven't watched this, like I said. Let's see what this video is about. I will still agree that no one should be rushing to judgment, and because there's still so much that needs to come out.
Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. Larry Johnson joins us now. Larry, it's a pleasure no matter what we're talking about. Thank you very much for joining us.
Always at your beck and call.
Thank you, dear friend. You are, of course, a renowned expert on rifles and ballistics. And of course, you have a lot of sources and friends in the government and out. And you've been able to provide us with great information. I do want to start with an apology, and that is we ran an X, what used to be called a tweet, of what the person who created it claimed was him as an officer,
right?
Intended to guard the president, asking for permission to shoot the shooter, and permission denied. And it turns out that that was false and phony. We thought it was real and serious at the time we put it up. It came to me from a source that is credible, but that source was duped. You and I discussed it as if it was real. We apologize. We both acknowledge that it's since been widely debunked and was not real. Nevertheless, there are many, many questions about what happened, how it happened, how the former and likely future president was nearly murdered. Let's start, if we can, with the scenario of how all this came about. Was the shooter at the scene before the president was there? Was he there a day or two before? Do we know of his whereabouts or his preparation, Larry?
I have seen no report that happened, but there's no way that without visiting the site beforehand that he would have been able to do what he did. There had to be some, he had to go out there before. And also what's noteworthy is he was carrying a rangefinder. You've played golf, and when you're out in the middle of the fairway and you look through the rangefinder telling you how far it is to the yardstick, he was carrying that. So that's another indicator that he was not, a complete novice with these firearms. And let me just correct you on one thing. You say I'm a renowned expert. I just know which end of the gun the bullet comes out of, okay?
Larry, you're a certified instructor and instruct some pretty important people. So
that's true.
To me, you're renowned, but I appreciate your humility. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, my dear friend. Is it true that he was seen by members of the audience who were there to hear the president, who made known their alarm at seeing a human being on a roof with some sort of a black device in his hands? I don't know if they even could determine that it was a rifle.
He was seen multiple times over a 30-minute period. This highlights what was one of probably the biggest breakdowns. And there's a company, it's called Fieldcraft. I know its owner, a good guy named Mike Glover, former SF guy. We had some dealings on another project related to Benghazi more than 10 years ago. So I know Mike, and he's solid. And one of the guys that works for him is just retired from a SWAT team and knows the Secret Service people who were involved with this. They gave him the real story about what happened. Number one, the Secret Service did not do advance work on those buildings that were out there. They should have. They didn't. Number two goes to your question. They did not have a single point of communications where a police officer that would have been out there witnessing that could call back to the what they call the Tactical Operations Center and say, "Hey, we got a problem here," and to have a coordinated communications plan. They didn't have that. They didn't have any way of identifying friend or foe. And one of the ways police do that is they have what's called a color of the day. And we've seen this in Ukraine, in the war in Ukraine, both on the Russian side and the Ukrainian side, where they put a colored armband on, white or blue and yellow or red or whatever. But everybody who's part of the security apparatus will have a color on, an identifying mark. That way, who's supposed to be there. And then anybody that's not wearing that color is not supposed to be there, and you take action against them.
Did snipers see him and think he might have been one of them?
Okay, so he's going to be breaking down the same stuff. I did find a clip. I'm going on another not another tangent, but I want to share just the videos, because like now I'm obsessed with, like, there was no blood on his hand when he touched his ear after the shot was struck. So I just want to rewind it again. Don't see any blood. Don't see any blood. I'm just going to do it again. I was looking for the speed to slow it down. So I'm not going to put too much into that for now. I'm going to take a look at more videos, try to do a slow-mo and pause and assess. And but anyway, we've been covering this for a while. So on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.